A lot of times we always wonder, who are the people who are doing the work in our communities? If you look around you, a lot of us drive around and we see the erosion of certain parts of our communities, the areas that need work, and the upliftment that's needed in the lives of people of our communities. And that's where POPUP steps in. They've been around for 25 years doing some phenomenal work, lifting up people a part of our city and being able to say, hey, we see you, here's a skill that you can learn, and be able to get them integrated into the economy, but more importantly, really step into the fullness of who God has called them to be. And tonight, as we can see behind me, celebrating 25 years of POPUP, many people have gathered to celebrate the work that they've been doing, the work they continue to do, but more importantly, how they've been able to make space for God to be able to reach this city of ours, one life after another. So we're going to step inside, talk to a couple of people and find out how it's been 25 years into POPUP, and of course, ultimately to hear what it is that they're hoping for into the future of POPUP and what they're trusting God to do through POPUP. Join me. Now, to be able to put together something of this magnitude takes vision, and vision comes with a visionary and someone who has the heart, the capacity, the very strong shoulders to carry that vision and be able to see it come to life. And I'm sitting with a gentleman who does exactly that, Emil Robenheimer, who's the CEO of POPUP. Emil, it's great to be chatting to you this evening, and I think it's a special evening. I almost want to ask you what you're feeling, but I'm sure there's so many that you can't even put it to words. But maybe a better question to start off with is, what made you run with POPUP so passionately that you get to this night? Because I think this night signifies so many other moments of you really holding dear to the vision of POPUP.
Yeah, I think we've been compelled, Josie, just by our experience over the last couple of years. You know, I kind of got this job by mistake, actually, and I felt God telling me this is where I want you. And so that vision just really gripped my heart to say there's something about stopping for the one that Jesus teaches us that says every single one person in the city, he has a heart for them. And if we discover kingdom in the design of the king, what should our city look like? And then I immediately get confronted with, but it looks so much different. And then, God, how do we even start? Where do we start? And so POPUP was that journey for us. And tonight signifies the 25th birthday of this incredible unctioning to say the king has a different agenda with our city. And how do we organize and mobilize so that we can reach every single person that God has a deep passion for, but that also has that creative agency in them that if it is harnessed, their God colors find expression in a way that just transforms our city.
I think there's a lot of business owners that look to you and think, man, I long to be able to run my business in a way that it creates space for God as well. And they're probably thinking, man, I don't know how to navigate that place. And as much as we celebrate POPUP, I think we also celebrate POPUP creating space for God and really allowing the Lord to lead where POPUP is, which now we look at in 25 years later where it is now. To a business owner that's listening to this conversation and going, okay, Emil, what are some of those things that you think would be key for me to include into my business to ensure that I partner with God? Not that I ask God to co-sign after I've come up with a dream, but rather that I co-sign with what He's got on His heart for my business.
Yeah, I think it's almost this dichotomy of saying, well, do I just put Jesus stickers on my bumper and then it's a Jesus car, right? I think fundamentally the realization that I've come to is that it's not my business. I am here to steward a mandate that God breathed long before I even existed. And that word does not return empty. And my role as a leader in business is first to ask the question, what is God's objective with this business? And if I can steward that well, that is a kingdom business because it is the king's agenda. And we can never kind of outmaneuver that because the king's agenda is the king's agenda. And I can't kind of move that towards my objectives. And so fundamentally, I think as a business leader, what I've been confronted with is the first thing that I need to be willing to do is to say, God, I'm going to surrender this business to you and allow your mandate to define our vision.
Before we wrap up our time together, because I know you need to go run, you may have been praying leading up to tonight for quite a number of things, for many hours that I won't even ask you how many they are. But what I'm curious about are some of the things that you really trust in God for, that you'll look back at the end of this evening and say, Lord, thank you. that you came through, and I now see this come to fulfillment. What are some of the things that you trust in God for to do, not just in your life, not just in pop-up, but also in some of the people that will be here later on tonight, that they'll drive home and say, my, oh my, what in the world did I just leave from?
So, I mean, yes, it is a celebration of the work that God has done through Pop-Up, and we want to celebrate that. We want to look back on this night and say, let us create these monuments that we can look back on in a couple of years' time and say, yes, but this is what God has done. And so some of that is to build this altar to Him tonight. Some of that is to fundraise, obviously, right? That's why we're having an auction. But really what I've been convicted of is that God has asked us to arrange this event, to host people in His presence at His banquet. And what I would really love people to discover is something about God's intent with them. To discover that they too are called as His ambassadors to go minister His ministry of reconciliation in our city. In whatever realm they function and wherever they have been given authority, how are they stewarding that according to the King and His kingdom?
Emil, for the work you do in our city and the work that you do with business people like-minded, and just the passion that you have for Pop-Up. And I think for the many thank yous you won't get, I now say thank you to you, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic evening. Enjoy it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Maureen, it's great to be chatting to you right now. I mean, the celebration here it's palpable in the air. I think you see a lot of people smiling, a lot of people just feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're here 25 years later. But also I think a lot of people are going, man, I can't believe we've been able to impact so many lives. And you're one of the people who absolutely sees to the T the impact that it brings, pun intended. What does it mean to you when you look back at not just the numbers in terms, because it's easy to be caught in what we're doing now, but when you look at the numbers of what we've managed to do over time and the partnerships that you've had?
It's amazing. It's amazing. To God be the glory. This morning I was thinking about it and I said 25 years. I've been in Pop-Up for 9 years and I've been so privileged and fortunate to be in the lives of the learners because they start the journey with me. And when you see that learner that walked in very unsure, you see hopelessness. They don't know what the future holds for them. Struggling with their identity. They come into Pop-Up, they go through the process, and even before the end of the program, they see me and hi, Miss Maureen, and you can just see the joy. And when they get their certificates on the day of the certificate ceremony, it's amazing. You look at them and you're like, this is a totally different person. And when you see the impact it makes not only in their lives, their families, their communities, and when they get to the workplace, they become great ambassadors for Pop-Up and ambassadors for Christ. Because a lot of them come into Pop-Up not knowing Christ, but when they leave, they have an established relationship with God.
Maria, it's great to be chatting to you this evening. I think celebrations like this are important to be able to reflect back on a lot of things. Reflect back on the journey, reflect back on the impact, but also to reflect back on the work that's done. I think a lot of us, when we think about our city, we love our city. We love where you grow up, but you never get to see the impact that's happening in our city. From someone who's looking at it from a perspective of seeing, okay, what's happening in Tshwane, you see a lot that we, saying we love it, we don't get to see. When you look back at the years you've been at Pop-Up and the time you've spent working with the team of Pop-Up, what are some of the things that make you excited about this city of Tshwane that I love, but I'm sure your love for it is very different?
For me, I've been here for 15 years with Pop-Up, my journey, and believe me, this day, yesterday I was just thinking about it, that Lord, we have done it. You know, the impact that Pop-Up does, how many people have changed their lives, how many people today they are working, how many of them they stop using drugs and substance abuse because of our journey, but not in our power, but the glory of God, because we are Christ-centered. Everything that we do, we put Him first, and then He guides us. So I was saying, Lord, thank you, I'm still part of this, and seeing, I was just closing my eyes, reflecting, seeing that all the learners from 2006 to date, how many of them are working? How many of them are successful? If we could make this national, we could be packed here. because there is a lot of people that pop up impacted and change their lives, and we'll continue doing that. We're not gonna stop.
Joining me right now is someone who is a very familiar voice, especially, and maybe for a lot of you it's the first time seeing the face to the voice. Gerard Viljoen is joining me right now to talk a lot about what's happening here and celebrating pop-up and the work that happens in businesses that are creating space and room for God. It's absolutely so great to be chatting to you. And when I think about a lot of business owners, they look for ways to get onto the next thing and try to be innovative and try to find ways to be fresh in their approach. But a lot of them struggle with the idea of welcoming God into their business and being able to create space to hear God's heart for their business. And maybe they think and hear the conversations happening tonight, celebrating 25 years of pop-up, and they're thinking, that can't be for my business. My business does completely different work. There's no way it can do that. I want to start there. What encouragement do you have to them, to encourage them to not call God to co-sign what they've dreamt, but to say, Lord, what is your dream for my business?
Well, if I can just start off with, I started with Pop-Up before the business got involved. I had a prison ministry and we helped people that came out of prison to find employment and also a place to stay. So I've been involved basically from the start, and then there was a time when they were stationed close to the central prison. But then we as a business, when did we start? It was about...
Yeah, it was long ago.
Yeah?
Yeah, the 2005, 2004, I think we got involved with pop-up perhaps.
John, it's great to be chatting to you this evening. It almost looks like it's too small to celebrate the magnitude of what it really represents. You know, the work that Pop-Up has done for the last 25 years. If we were to try to bring all the people that have been impacted, this place wouldn't be enough. But to partner with something that does such great work, especially with spreading the gospel in doing that same thing, is something that's very important. What does it mean for you and the team at Doxodeo to say, you know what, we're proudly part of Pop-Up and the work that they're doing, and to really be able to see it year on year grow and life by life change?
I think when we started off, we were so touched by the pain of people looking at the nightlife in Pretoria, you know, and also just where people would be sleeping on the streets. A typical suburban Afrikaans-speaking guy, which this ministry was at that point, wasn't confronted with the pain and realities. So we started off as a shelter and a lot of other just social programs trying to help people. In the process, we realized that if we don't help people to get skills, we're not breaking the cycle of poverty.
Gerrit, it's great to be chatting to you this evening. I'm almost trying to imagine being a part of Pop-Up and the excitement that must be inside, the joy that must be inside, and also probably all the other emotions that make one want to cry, but you keep explaining it's tears of joy. As someone who sits on the board and you see so much, I think you overlook so many different facets of the moving parts that make Pop-Up look as beautiful as what we see it, but it's based on many, many, many decisions. What do you think is the thing that keeps Pop-Up working so well, not just on paper, but really in the work that it does on the ground, that we eventually see and businesses say, I want to partner with that. And 25 years later, it's still standing here and doing even greater work than I think it imagined it would do at year one.
Sure. I think it's a commitment to a vision, a dream, if you want to call it that, to actually make a difference in the lives of people. You know, to give people hope and to give them a future that they can actually aspire to a bit better life. And that is the main purpose of Pop-Up, is actually to use skills so that people can actually advance in life.
Heinrich Sune, I think, this is a special evening of celebrating the beautiful work that POPUP does. I need to know where you fit into the whole puzzle that makes this beautiful engine work as beautifully as what it does. So maybe I'll start it with you, Heinrich.
So, being part of Metamorpho, we are a youth organization focusing on helping the youth to develop themselves, understand themselves, unlock their calling in life. And so part of our program is to contribute to society. And so for the last couple of years, being part of Metamorpho, our students have reached out to pop-up centers, and they're helping to rebuild the infrastructure at these centers, helping with the upliftment as well. And starting from this year on, we've actually aligned Metamorpho and pop-up strategically so that we can build a long-term relationship in terms of our students serving at pop-up each and every year throughout the year. So in essence, what we do with our students at Metamorpho happens with students in pop-up as well, but it's the socio-economical background is just different, and the geographical space is different. So that's how we are involved.